We've all been there. You're standing in a museum, staring at a painting, and all you can think is, I don't get it. To me, knowing the story behind an artwork is a huge part of knowing how to look at it. I'm Amanda, the host of the Art of History podcast, where we view history through the lens of some really great works of art. Each episode, we dive deep into the bigger picture behind some familiar and maybe not so familiar pieces. Check out Art of History now wherever you get your podcasts.
Culture kids, welcome to the show. We are a family podcast dedicated to empowering a generation of kind and empathetic creators and citizens of the world. Thanks for joining us today. We are here for 2 episodes to learn about languages. We have Dr. Victor Santos on the show, who is a linguist and an award-winning children's book author. We're going to learn about a book he recently wrote called What Makes Us Human, which was published in over 20 languages and the official children's book for the UNESCO International Decade of Indigenous Languages.
Hello, Culture Kids. My name is Asher, and I'm your host, along with my mom, Kristen.
Before we meet our guests, let's take a second and give a shout out to our listeners. We want to say thank you to Terrius, who is 8 years old, and his mom from Los Angeles, California. They said, "This is super engaging, fun, and educational. We can't get enough." And Sammy and Grace from Culver City, California said, "Come for the culture and education, stay for the jokes. My 5-year-old was totally engaged and loves hearing Asher's jokes. Thank you for creating this."
I love you. Thank you, everyone. And don't forget to leave us a review, and we will give you a special shout out.
Well, let's hurry up and meet our guest. Here is Dr. Victor Santos. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Kristen. Hello, Asher. Hello, Culture Kids. I am so happy to be with you guys here today. And feel free to call me Victor from now on if you would like.
Thanks for being here. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Yes, my name is Victor Santos. I was born in a country called Brazil. It's a country that is very famous for soccer. We have very good soccer players.
One of my favorite sports. Yippee!
When I was 25, I moved to a country called the Netherlands. And then I moved to another country called Germany, and I went there to study. And then in 2011, I came to the United States to study some more. I met the person who is now my wife, and she is from a country called Ukraine. So I have a son called Dylan, who is 7 years old, and a daughter called Isabella, who is 5 years old. And there's something kind of special about Dylan and Isabella, and that is that they speak 3 languages from birth.
What languages? You lived in so many places.
So my wife is from Ukraine, but her first language is Russian. And she always spoke to our kids in Russian, even when they were inside of her belly. I always spoke to Dylan and Isabella in Portuguese, which is the language that we speak in Brazil. And they were born here in the United States, so they learned English.
That's cool. So Russian, Portuguese, and English. They must be multicultural. We learned about this in our other episode. The people who are multicultural have many cultures in their home.
That's right. Many people that have a multicultural life at home often speak multiple languages.
And after I had Dylan, I decided to start writing books. And that's how I became a children's book author. And I wanted to write books that would show children that they should be proud of who they are, no matter where they come from, no matter what language they speak, no matter where their parents come from. We all have something special, and we should be proud of who we are.
So as we mentioned before, Victor is a professional linguist. Asher, do you know what a linguist is?
Sounds like the word languages. So is it someone who makes languages?
Thank you so much for the question. So a linguist is somebody who is an expert in anything related to language and languages.
Like how?
For example, we understand how best to learn a foreign language. Sometimes people want to learn a foreign language. They know the methodology, the best way to do it.
Very cool.
Another thing that we do is we study different parts of a language.
La 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 la.
Sounds are one of the things that linguists study in a language. So if you think, for example, of the English language, there are certain sounds that we use in the English language that do not exist in other languages. And Korean, for example, has some sounds that English doesn't have, and English has some sounds that Korean doesn't have.
That's a very good point. In the Korean language, there is no R sound. So my name, which is Kristen, would be pronounced Kristin in Korean. And in return, there are a lot of sounds in Korean that don't exist in English.
Oh yeah, like appa. Daddy in Korean is appa, but there's no sound ba in English.
Yep, that is one of many.
One other thing that is actually pretty cool that linguists are able to do is, you know how we have your fingerprint on your finger, and every person has a different fingerprint, right? The same thing works with language. Everybody speaks, writes in a different way.
Oh yeah, it's like the style and groove. Everybody's got it.
And sometimes, for example, you can actually identify somebody just by seeing what they wrote.
Fiddlesticks.
So you can be like a detective and find clues.
But let's say there is a person that wrote a message and we don't know who the message is from. Just by looking at the kinds of words they use, how they put those words together, or the way they speak, we're able to say, aha, I am pretty sure that was Madeline.
So cool.
So this is called author identification, and it's actually something really cool.
Like how mommy's writing is pretty and daddy's writing looks scary.
Something else linguists do is something that I'm pretty sure you and many other kids use daily, which is talking to Siri or talking to Alexa, right? The little thing that we always say Alexa and it beeps and starts talking to you. This is helping computers talk to humans and understand human language.
We have Google. We have to say, okay, Google.
Yep, Siri, Alexa, and Google are virtual assistants that use voice recognition to help you with tasks like setting reminders, playing music, or answering questions.
So helping computers understand human language. And you can write something in English and say, Google Translate, please show me how to say that in Japanese or Korean. And boom, the whole text is translated.
Fascinating.
This is also something that you need a linguist to help you with, to make sure the computer understands what it has to do. You need somebody who speaks the language.
Thank you, Victor, for sharing what a linguist does. It's fascinating that language is never just about speaking or writing. It tells us so much about a person's story, their background, and the community they come from. So as we mentioned before, Victor is a children's book author who has written several books, but we're here today to talk about his latest book, What Makes Us Human, which was published in over 20 languages. And it's the official children's book for the UNESCO International Decade of Indigenous Languages, which is a global initiative aimed at protecting and promoting Indigenous languages.
Can you tell us more about the book? We have a copy, and we love reading it at home, too.
Thanks, Asher. So What Makes Us Human is a book that I wrote last year by me and illustrated by Anna Forlati. The book works as a riddle. What is a riddle? It's an enigma that you have to solve, like a spy, right? And you don't know what the book is really about until you get to the very last page.
Can I share what it's about?
Uh-huh.
Languages!
Exactly. So I wanted to write a book, first of all, that would show my own children that they should be proud about the languages that they speak, and they should be proud of having more than one culture.
because they're multicultural.
That's right. So I wanted also to show other children that they should be proud of who they are, and above all, they should respect other people who may speak a different language, who may come from a different culture. Awesome! One other thing that I wanted to do with What Makes Us Human is bring attention to the fact that we have a very large number of languages in the world.
Ooh, thank you for bringing this up. So to our friends listening, how many languages do you think we have in this world?
Let's take some guesses.
You think it's 100?
I think it's more.
You think it's 200?
Maybe?
You think it's 1,000?
I actually don't know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna guess that it's more?
Yeah, more.
So, the number of languages we have in the world is, right now, 7,164 languages.
What? That's so many! I can't believe that!
That is a lot of languages, isn't it?
I hear mostly English in America, but I guess I sometimes hear Spanish, Korean, and a few others.
Yes, most people in America communicate in English, but lots and lots of people speak different languages in this country. And that is what I love most about America, its incredible diversity. People from all over the world come here, and that mix of cultures is what makes our country stronger and full of innovation. And as we've mentioned in other episodes, everyone here in America, except for Native Americans like Mr. Justin from the Navajo Nation, are what we call immigrants or descendants of immigrants.
It's just a matter of, is it first generation immigrant? They just came. Second generation, third generation. But at the end of the day, everybody's an immigrant if you're not Indigenous.
But do you have to speak English in America?
Well, it would certainly help because a lot of people here in America communicate in English. But that does not mean that being American means English is your main language that you speak at home. In fact, did you know that English is not the official language of the United States? Even though several states have declared English as their official language, our country as a whole does not have an official language. And in some states like Alaska, they have multiple official languages.
Oh, I see. Then why do most people speak English in America?
Yeah, that's a great question, Asher. So even though the United States does not have English as the official language, at the end of the day, everybody wants to communicate. It just happened that more and more people started speaking English in the United States because the very first people who immigrated to the United States were people from a country called England. And England, like the US, speaks English. And because people want to communicate, that made other people more willing to learn English as well, so they could communicate with those that were already here. That does not mean at all that speaking another language is not as good as speaking English, right? We use language for communication, so the more languages we speak, the more people we can communicate with.
That is very true. For example, in our family, like how my parents, Asher's grandparents, consider themselves to be proud Americans, even though their first language is Korean. While they are learning English because it helps them communicate better here, it is not their main language that we speak at home every day. And that's also a lot of people here in this country. Every family is different, and some American families may speak English and some may not. Or like Victor's family, they may speak multiple languages. And some families are trying to learn English, like how Asher is trying to learn Spanish and Korean. And learning a new language, whether it's English or not, is easy for some people, and it's not so easy for some people, which we'll learn more about in our second episode with Victor.
But why are there over 7,000 languages? That's so many. Wouldn't it be easier if we just all spoke the same language?
That's a great question, Asher. So I think, yes, there is this sort of illusion, I would say, that people think that if everybody in the world spoke the same language, the world would be a much better place. And this is one thing that I also wanted people to know through What Makes Us Human, my book. And that is that every language is connected to a culture. And when a language dies, we also lose something that is important, not only to the people who speak that language, but to all of us, to all of humanity.
Like what?
Because a language is connected to a culture, if suddenly all these people start speaking just one language, all of the books, all of the history, all of the knowledge that has been passed for years and years and years, hundreds of years in all those languages until today would be lost.
It's like losing a special key that unlocks all the stories, traditions, and knowledge of a culture, which is what makes our world so incredibly rich and exciting.
That's right. And we're talking about knowledge of biology, which is animals. We're talking about knowledge of plants. We're talking about jokes, right? We all love our jokes so much. Try to crack the same joke in a foreign language. You're going to see it doesn't work exactly the same, because jokes, they are very much associated, connected to culture.
Oh, like the same jokes may not be as funny in other languages.
That is so true. And it's because there are so many ideas or phrases or words in a certain language that simply cannot be translated in the same way in another language. For example, in Korea, there's a word called chung, which is a very important part of Korean culture.
It's like love, having chung for someone, right?
Not quite. Chung is more like having this bond and attachment for a person after a period of time over shared experiences. And in Korea, having chung is a major part of their cultural identity. It's hard to explain in English, but if you say you have chung towards a person, it means you care for them and you feel a special bond with them. But there is no word in English that can represent the word chung. So imagine if the Korean language disappeared, the whole idea of chung would disappear too.
Oh, that's sad.
So the more languages that we have in the world, the more cultures, the more tools that all of us humans have in order to understand the world. And if we have different ways of understanding the world, that makes us stronger, right? It's like if you play more than one sport, if all you can do is play basketball, that's amazing. But if you can play basketball, soccer, you can swim, you're a fitter person. You're more ready. You can run, right?
If someone speaks a different language, it means they might practice a whole new culture, and they can show us new things, like how their family celebrates holidays, or even eat different desserts. And maybe they have Pokemon cards in another language.
Exactly. But it's also super fun to find all the ways they may do things exactly the same, like soccer, basketball, chess, video games, pretty much all the things that you like to do, Asher. And there are games that children from almost every country in the world can play, even if they speak another language, like tag, hide and go seek,
or paint and draw, like Arden likes to do.
Yep. Even though we celebrate our differences, we also celebrate all the things we have in common too. Well, this was so much fun getting to know more about languages and what it represents in our world. Victor will be here again to talk about accents and all the wonderful things it tells us about a person. But meanwhile, grown-ups, please check out his book, What Makes Us Human, sold in over 20 languages. Or you can also contact your local library and suggest that they add What Makes Us Human so that every child in your community can access the book. We have drafted a sample email for you to copy and paste to send to your library, available under our show notes.
Thank you, Victor. We'll see you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, and I would love to be back and chat a little bit more. So for now, goodbye. ciao, which is the word for bye in Portuguese, and mahalo, which is the word for thank you in Hawaiian. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye!
And to our Culture Kids family, what language do you think you would want to learn someday? Imagine what it might be like to communicate with a person from that culture. What would it be like to understand their stories, traditions, and daily life? You can ask your grown-ups to help you research how to say hello in a different language, or even simple phrases like, "Will you be my friend?" There are so many ways you can learn a new language, and we invite you to explore and start your adventure right where you are. And as your sister Arden is going to end with our special message today.
And here at Culture Kids, you and your family were welcomed and included and celebrated for exactly who you are. Joke time!
Okay, I'll go first.
Go, go, go!
Is this swimming pool safe for diving?
I don't know. Is it?
It depends. Deep ends, depends.
Oh, if it has deep ends, it depends? Like, if it has deep ends?
Yep. I know you kind of do have to think about this one.
Okay, my turn. Want to hear a joke about paper?
Joke about paper? Sure.
Never mind, it's terrible. Get it? Like you tear a piece of paper, but the joke's terrible. Like, it's so bad.
That was a great one.
Yay!
Well, thanks for joining us today. Hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode because we have some midweek surprise mini episodes coming up. Reach out to us at any time at hello@culturekidsmedia.com and stay in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Till next week.
Annyeong. That's bye in Korean.